Hello, Assalamu alaikum. I am your presenter and host Mrs. Iqbal, and you are watching my YouTube channel Biographies. Born in Germany in 1879, Albert Einstein is one of the most celebrated scientists of the 20th century. His theories on relativity laid the framework for a new branch of physics, and Einstein's E=mc2 on mass energy equivalence is one of the most famous formulas in the world. In 1921, he was awarded the Nobel Prize in Physics for his contributions to theoretical physics and the evolution of quantum theory. Einstein is also well known as an original free thinker, speaking on a range of humanitarian and global issues. After contributing to the theoretical development of nuclear physics and encouraging F.D. Roosevelt to start the Manhattan Project, he later spoke out against the use of nuclear weapons. Born in Germany to Jewish parents, Einstein settled in Switzerland and then, after Hitler's rise to power, the United States. Einstein was a truly global man and one of the undisputed geniuses of the 20th century. School failed me and I failed the school. The teachers behaved like Feldwebel. I wanted to learn what I wanted to know, what I wanted to know, but they wanted me to learn for the exam. Einstein and the Poet 1983. At the age of 12, Einstein picked up a book on geometry and read it cover to cover. He would later refer to it as his holy booklet. He became fascinated by maths and taught himself, becoming acquainted with the great scientific discoveries of the age. Despite Albert's independent learning, he languished at school. Eventually, he was asked to leave by the authorities because his indifference was setting a bad example to other students. He applied for admission to the Federal Institute of Technology in Zurich. His first attempt was a failure because he failed exams in botany, zoology, and languages. However, he passed the next year and in 1900 became a Swiss citizen. At college, he met a fellow student, Meliva Merrick, and after a long friendship, they married in 1903. They had 2 sons before divorcing several years later. In 1896, Einstein renounced his German citizenship to avoid military conscription. For 5 years, he was stateless before successfully applying for Swiss citizenship in 1901. After graduating from Zurich College, he attempted to gain a teaching post, but none was forthcoming. Instead, he gained a job in the Swiss Patent Office. While working at the patent office, Einstein continued his own scientific discoveries and began radical experiments to consider the nature of the light and space. He published his first scientific paper in 1900 and by 1905 had completed his PhD entitled A New Determination of Molecular Dimensions. In addition to working on his PhD, Einstein also worked feverishly on other papers. In 1905, he published 4 pivotal scientific works which would revolutionize modern physics. 1905 would later be referred to as his Annus Mirabilis. Einstein's work started to gain recognition and he was given a post at the University of Zurich. 1909 and in 1911 was offered the post of full professor at the Charles Ferdinand University in Prague, which was then part of Austria-Hungary Empire. He took Austrian-Hungary citizenship to accept the job in 1914 he returned to Germany and was appointed a director of the Kaiser Wilhelm Institute for Physics, 1914 to 1932. Einstein suggested that light doesn't just travel as waves but as electric currents. This photoelectric effect could force metals to release a tiny stream of particles known as quanta. From this quantum theory, other inventors were able to develop devices such as television and movies. He was awarded the Nobel Prize in Physics in 1921. Einstein described himself as a Zionist socialist. He did support the state of Israel but became concerned about the narrow nationalism of the new state. In 1952, he was offered the position as President of Israel, but he declined, saying he had neither the natural ability nor the experience to deal with human beings. I am deeply moved by the offer from our state of Israel, and at once saddened and ashamed that I cannot accept it. Albert Einstein was involved in many civil rights movements such as the American Campaign to End Lynching. He joined the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, NAACP, and considered racism America's worst disease. But he also spoke highly of the meritocracy in American society and the value of being able to speak freely. I do not know how the Third World War will be fought, but I can tell you what they will use in the Fourth Rocks. Einstein was fitted as a scientist, but he was a polymath with interests in many fields. In particular, he loved music. He wrote that if he had not been a scientist, he would have been a musician. Einstein played the violin to a high standard. I often think in music. I live my daydreams in music. I see my life in terms of music. I get most joy in life out of music. Einstein died in 1955. At his request, his brain and vital organs were removed for scientific study.